Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3HR Advisors and sponsored by WorkHuman. Thanks for joining me for a quick update on what's important in the world of work. My name is Steve Boese. Today in the Workplace Minute, we're looking at new research that suggests AI and automation are being called out as convenient excuses for CEOs who are more interested in cost-cutting and headcount reduction than they are in any true gains from the AI technology. Let's break it down. Despite breathless headlines warning of a robot takeover in the workforce, a new research report from Oxford Economics raises questions and even casts doubt on the narrative that artificial intelligence is currently causing mass employment reductions and corporate layoffs. According to the firm's analysis, welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3 Advisors and sponsored by WorkHuman. Thanks for joining me for your quick update on what's important in the world of work. My name is Steve Boese. Today in the Workplace Minute, we're looking at new research that suggests AI and automation are being called out as convenient excuses for CEOs who are more interested in cost-cutting and headcount reductions than any true gains from the AI technologies. Let's break it down. Despite breathless headlines warning of a robot takeover in the workforce, a new research report from Oxford Economics raises questions and even casts doubt on the narrative that artificial intelligence is currently causing mass employment reductions and corporate layoffs. According to the firm's analysis, firms don't appear to be replacing workers with AI on any significant scale. They suggest instead that companies may be using the technology as simply cover for routine headcount reductions. In a January report, the research firm argued that while anecdotal evidence of job displacement due to advancing technology does exist, the macroeconomic data does not support the idea that a structural shift in employment is being caused by AI and automation. Instead, it points to more cynical corporate strategies. Quote, "We suspect some firms are trying to dress up layoffs as a good news story rather than bad news, such as past overhiring." The primary motivation for this rebranding of jobs cuts appears to be investor-related. The report notes that attributing staff reductions to AI adoption sends out a more positive message to investors than to admit traditional business failures such as weak demand or excessive hiring in the past. By framing new layoffs as a technological pivot, companies can present themselves as forward-thinking and innovative, rather than businesses just struggling with a downturn. Plus, CEOs get to use AI as kind of a shield against blame for strategic blunders or execution mistakes that could be attributed back to the leadership team itself. And while AI is increasingly cited as the catalyst for job cuts, some research claims that because financial markets typically celebrate news of job cuts, firms announce things like phantom layoffs that never actually occur. Companies then try to exploit any positive stock market reaction to the news of the potential layoff. And of course, since so many CEOs' compensation packages are tied to the stock price, an AI blame layoff can bolster the leader's own pay while also projecting and protecting their own job security. The Oxford report highlighted data from Challenger, Gray & Christmas, which is a recruiting firm and one of the leading providers of layoff data, to illustrate the disparity between the perception and reality. While AI was cited as the reason for nearly 55,000 U.S. job cuts in the first 11 months of 2025, accounting for over 75% of all AI-related cuts reported since 2023, this figure represents a mere 4.5% of total reported job losses. By comparison, job losses attributed to standard market and economic conditions, they were 4 times larger, totaling 245,000. And when viewed against the broader backdrop of the U.S. labor market, where 1.5 million to 1.8 million workers lose their jobs in any given month, AI-related job losses are still relatively minimal. And the researchers suggest a simple economic test for the AI revolution and its impact on jobs. If machines were truly replacing humans at scale, the output per remaining worker should skyrocket. They say if AI were already replacing labor at a large scale, productivity growth should be accelerating, and generally it isn't. The report observes that recent productivity growth has actually decelerated, a trend that aligns with cyclical economic behaviors rather than an AI-driven boom. So while the firm acknowledges that productivity gains from new technologies often take years to materialize, The current data suggests that AI use remains experimental in nature and isn't yet replacing workers on a major scale. At the same time, recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms that the low-hire, low-fire labor market is morphing into a very stagnant overall labor market in the U.S., with companies reluctant to hire while attempting to hold on to their experienced workers in anticipation of the next economic upswing. And the Oxford report also addresses fears that AI is eroding entry-level white-collar jobs. We've talked about that on the Workplace Minute before. While U.S. graduate employment rose to a peak of 5.5% in March 2025, Oxford Economics argue this is likely cyclical rather than structural, and pointing to a supply glut of degree holders as a more probable culprit. The share of 22 to 27-year-olds with university educations in the U.S. rose to 35% by 2019, with even sharper increases observed in Europe. Ultimately, Oxford Economics concludes that the shifts in the labor market are likely to be evolutionary rather than revolutionary. At the end of the day, there's something deeply cynical about executives pointing to AI and automation as the reason for layoffs when the real drivers are familiar and far less revolutionary. Margin pressures, investor expectations, cost containment, or a failure to plan for sustainable growth. Framing these decisions as inevitable outcomes of technology is not only misleading, it strips leaders of accountability and reduces real people to simply line items in a narrative designed to sound progressive and forward-looking. AI did not decide to make job cuts. Leaders decide that, often driven by investors. And using technology as a convenient shield for old-fashioned cost-cutting simply erodes trust, damages culture, and undermines any credible claims to responsible leadership. If organizations are serious about the promise of AI, the challenge is not how quickly it can replace people, but how deliberately it can elevate them. That means investing in reskilling and redeployment, redesigning work so employees can use these tools to create more value, enabling growth, innovation, and better decision-making, and not just shrinking payroll. So here's the challenge for leaders. Commit to keeping people first and leave technology in its proper place. AI needs to be a force multiplier for human capabilities, not the easiest excuse to discard humans. The future of work should be built on human judgment, creativity, and dignity, with new technology serving as a tool to help people do their best work, not the rationale for removing people from their work. Thank you so much for listening, and a big thank you to WorkHuman for supporting the Workplace Minute. If this episode made you think about how your organization can better leverage new tech to elevate your workforce, please share it with a colleague. I'm Steve Boese, and this has been the Workplace Minute from H3 Advisors.